and welcome to the Hans Brinker Leadership Series, which is all about extraordinary leaders in extraordinary times, brought to you by Adi Partners. As founder and chairman Adi Partners, I'm delighted to launch our leadership series globally today. I am Sanjay Viswanathan. COVID-19, the pandemic of this millennium, has changed our daily lives irrevocably. At the firm, we believe people fighting this pandemic at the coalface in healthcare, travel, supply chain, government, nonprofit, and media all deserve their due recognition. And as a global firm across, between Asia to North America and 19 cities in between, that creates value through technology. I'm pleased that Adi Partners has conceived this program.
In fact, over the next several weeks, we will identify and share world-class practices to combat COVID-19 and create a cohort of champions who can actually influence and energize this war against coronavirus. I am Hiral Desai. Through the Hans Brinker Leadership Series, we will identify extraordinary leaders in these extraordinary times. And this is very similar to legendary 15-year-old boy who mythically actually saved his nation from being flooded. The series will actually provide everyday leaders a platform for sharing of best practices and appreciate their efforts in the fight against COVID-19. Our journey will actually take us to India, Middle East, UK, Europe, America, Far East, and China.
While this war, it has been fought on physiological terms. It has already left an indelible imprint on the mind, i.e. mental health. Experts that we talk to say anxiety levels have increased a whopping 67%. Domestic violence has gone up 25%. Loneliness and depression has spiked 22%. And worryingly, suicide rates has gone up 20%. In today's episode, we want to delve into the human mind and explore the relevance of mental wellness to COVID. In this context, I'm pleased to welcome and introduce you to Parul Doshi. Parul is a consulting psychologist, art therapist, Jungian psychoanalyst, and brings over 18 years expertise in this field. Based in Mumbai, India, Parul is focused on telecounseling people who are quarantined and self-isolated in these times. Welcome, Parul, to the Hans Brinker Leadership Series.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to meet you all.
Thank you, Parul. In fact, thank you, Sanjay, as well. Parul, let me come to you with my first question.
Yes.
This crisis, the pandemic that we've been talking about, COVID-19, is generating stress everywhere for everyone. And if you talk about the most common emotion that all of us are dealing with is fear. What is your view?
I think whether you call fear, panic, stress, worry, all are human construct. When we are dealing with any of them, they are all anxiety inducing. And when we are going through such uncertain times, when there's everything, life is so much in limbo, everything is suspended, right? You never know what is going to happen next. So anxiety and fear, what you are feeling is very, very natural. On top of that, we are also constantly, because of this COVID-19 fear, most of us are projecting the worry about dying, about death, about catching illness, about having any infections, or people are even afraid of contacting doctors with the fear of developing illness or infection. There is also so much of powerlessness this fear has generated because you feel that you cannot control this. Nothing is in your control. And the human psyche operates when you lose your control, you start becoming very anxious and fearful. So yes, fear, besides fear, there is panic and also a lot of anxiety.
That's an interesting point that you're making as well, Parul, right now. But if you have to talk in context of fear, how important is mental wellness? Where would you place it in terms of priority if you have to actually win the war against COVID-19?
I think supreme priority. Because a lot of medical studies have shown that there is a link between immunity and mental health.
Okay.
The moment mental stress increases, your immunity level goes down.
Okay.
And looking to the kind of stress that people are going through on the day-to-day basis, the finances, the daily routines, struggling to develop their new routine, or what you call as a new normal. People are going through so much of mental stress, and because of that, the immunity level goes down. And when the immunity level goes down, you are highly susceptible to develop the inflammations and any kind of immunity disorder diseases. So this link is very well proven, and I think mental health should be at supreme as of now to fight the battle against COVID-19 for sure.
Right. So again, it's an interesting point where, yes, your immunity level is something which deteriorates when your mental health is impacted. Now, that's something which everyone needs to understand, because the moment your immunity goes down, at least on the pandemic front, you're the first ones to actually catch the disease. Now, to treat this once again, now anxiety and fear, Parul, are something which actually people don't really acknowledge it. It's something which is ignored as well. How should someone actually learn to cope with it naturally?
See, anxiety, fear are all the part of human life, right? We do, actually, if you look at anthropologically, flight and fight response are all very much innate to human nature. So anxiety, fear actually does serve a purpose in human life. But when it starts going out of our control, it starts interfering with our day-to-day life, then we really need to take care of that anxiety. And coping naturally doesn't happen on almost everyday basis, especially in this kind of a magnitude of situations. We need, when it starts interfering, when it starts making you feel more and more depressed, low, anxious, then you cannot think of coping naturally constantly, but you need proper professional help. And let's learn to accept that, because that is what is another struggle which India is going through just now.
That's fascinating, Parul. And Hiral and I have been discussing this with several leaders in your sphere globally. And one of the things that we are now in an extended lockdown globally, and certainly in India too. As we emerge from this, how should people approach anxiety and depression?
Interesting question, Sanjay. I think yesterday I was just going through a news article from New York Times by Orhan Pamuk. Orhan Pamuk is writing some new novel based on the pandemic of 1917. And he has defined this fear and anxiety this whole human race is just now going through so beautifully, which I would like to quote here. He has said that fear elicits two distinct responses in me. Perhaps all of us, because sometimes it causes me to withdraw into myself towards solitude and silence, but other times it teaches me to be humble and practice solidarity. So when we are going through this kind of a thing, what we need to really think is learn to accept. We have to learn to accept this whole thing instead of accepting it as a taboo, but take it into our stride, because we human race as collectively are undergoing so much of change culturally, country-wise, religiously. This is not just me or your struggle, it is a world struggle, right? So when we are collectively going through something and people have started learning to accept, they develop the open mind that this can be, anxiety and fear can be part of your life. And you cannot associate taboo or stigma constantly. So I think this pandemic will basically teach us to be very open-minded and accepting of this whole mental illness into our stride like any other physical ailment. And that is where our solidarity, or what Orhan Pamuk talks about, the silence and solidarity comes here. Because we need to be solidly together, especially India as a country, to just let go of that taboo. And we may emerge after the lockdown accepting this, okay, this anxiety can happen, panic can happen. It can be a part of life. And we can deal with it better through some help.
That's very true. And if I look at it from the other dimension of it, which is how should corporates approach mental wellness, especially when they start to look at designing employee packages, benefits, compensations, and so on. I mean, in the past, we've seen large enterprises to startups have been very creative with these packages, right? Mental wellness was never part of it, but post-COVID, mental wellness will, we think, become very important for them. So how should they be approaching this? when they're designing these packages?
I personally feel that mental wellness has, since last many years, mental wellness has started becoming part of corporate. Lots and lots of corporates do have wellness programs, mental health programs. They have education programs. They have smoking cessation programs. They also keep, so many of them have the suicide prevention areas. Mental wellness should be part of the program to such an extent that most of the corporates, I feel, not only at a corporate level, I think lots of the educational institution, government institution, should have some kind of a mental health support where there has to be a touch point, where people can approach in case of the need. Because some kind of a guidance, some kind of a counseling, teleconference, so that people don't remain under the constant pressure, because each and every area is generally now going through a lot of stress. It's not just about the corporate, right? School level has different stress, government level has different stress, our small offices have different stress. So providing that kind of mental health support should be an ideal situation for all of us now. And I think that time has now come to think about it.
Yes. And the home, which used to be a clear territory outside of work, and therefore used to be a different location people could go to once they finished work, now has all begun to blur. I mean, with work from home becoming the norm during COVID and post-COVID, we're going to see these lines starting to blur significantly, right? So when we talk to sociologists, they tell us this is now the new normal, right?
Yes.
So from a psychologist perspective, what should employers be doing to enable their people to de-stress and decompress, especially when work and home is now one location?
I think from a very interesting question, I think we have to have that humanitarian approach. First of all, empathizing with your employees. Secondly, being sensitive towards their needs. Because now most of them, we don't know because we are not meeting them on a day-to-day basis, or we are meeting them only through those video conferencing, because we are not meeting personally. We don't know what kind of struggle the person is going through. So empathizing them more, encouraging physical activities during the office hours and after the office hours as an employer, and also providing them some kind of a financial support in case of providing them their paychecks in time, also giving them the breaks on a regular basis. Because I think if the more productive the employees, more happier the employees, the more production and the more company is going to be helped. So the first thing is empathizing. Secondly, I think is being sensitive towards their needs. Thirdly, I think also a lot of open communication, right? We need to have that open discussions within the employee and employer. That line has to be blurred. That line has to be blurred where people can approach the employer very easily and people are so comfortable being with each other. And also developing the social outset where you have, like in Zoom, we are 3 of us are talking the same, we're having those conference meetings with all the employees together, where that social anxiety or the social mislead, since we are not stepping out, that what we are missing, social outlook, is going to be provided through virtual world now.
Right. That's a great point, Parul, that you've been making as well, that yes, a line needs to be drawn right now. I mean, there needs to be a little bit of empathy as well that everyone needs to look at. But another area that worries me is how quickly coronavirus has spread in our local communities and globally. Now, if you see the rate of doubling of infection, that's gone from, say, 14 days to almost 3 days, at least when you talk about India. Now, how can we get to more people quickly with mental wellness intervention? Because the number of therapists, the number of doctors remain as many.
Yeah, and I personally think that even if the infection is increasing, people going through stress, how many people actually are open to taking this kind of professional helps in India? Not many. So at that time, we need to actually make usage of this technology. I think Facebook. I have a mother who is 80-year-old. She uses a Facebook. I have a niece who is 12-year-old. She also is a part of a Facebook. So making use of all the social media platforms should definitely help. Using Twitter account, Instagram, you can write down small tips about mental health on Instagram. You can post it on Facebook. Also have some small videos made for the small groups of companies or even the people, who can access it. And besides all of this, my first thing coming to my mind is let's create that awareness ambassadors. Like if a celebrity or if someone comes and talks about mental health, see the way people have reacted in past. If you remember, so many of the celebrities have talked about mental health disturbances and people have reacted so well. So roping in them about this kind of a social awareness should be the best thing, because it will work very fast. Now, a few days back, I had my helper who just told that Amitabh Bachchan came on the TV and he said, you need to wash your hands. Imagine the impact which a celebrity is having on our day-to-day life. And he said, "Aap to bolte the, but now I am going to do it every day." So it makes a difference. Those celebrities make a difference which we can never. So making use of this kind of things on a larger platform will definitely help.
Right. So influencers is something that will actually work as well to creating awareness.
Surely.
Point well taken on this, Parul. And counseling also, Parul, if you go to see, is mainly one-to-one. Now, how are we expected to break this pattern so that professionals like you can actually go out, reach more people, provide them with care and actually support?
See, counseling can be one-on-one counseling. See, I use a lot of couple therapy where I take 2 people. There are people, group therapy sessions, there are family therapy sessions. So counseling can be many. The same way we can use the social media platform to reach out to more people. I also nowadays am using virtual videos to all my patients. The people who are in quarantine also I'm sending those virtual videos. We are creating a group seminars there in the quarantine where we are giving some meditation. We are playing some relaxation music for the people who are in quarantine. So many things can be done together with the help of technology, for sure. And we can definitely reach with. I think this is the fastest and the best medium.
Right. And overall, if you see in this era where we are moving to something more virtual, there's more use of AI, there is more use of robotics. Is there a role for virtual medicine as well in the form of chat, video, phone, which can be actually used to improve access to mental health and wellness? And that could actually provide the same outcome that probably a one-to-one counseling would do.
Yeah. See, I'll tell you, there were so many of my patients prior to this would never have thought that me and them talking together like this on the video. Because lots and lots of us do like that human interaction. We develop trust by meeting that person. Like, I like this person, I don't like this person. All those construct happens when we start meeting them physically. So when this virtual word, now what you are using, a very correct word is virtual medicine. So virtual medicine is the best thing, because now this is the only thing which I think this is going to be the new normal for 2 years. None of us are going to meet each other personally, for sure. In this idea of social distancing. So virtual medicine is the best thing to work. And I'm sure it is approachable. People can use it and people can make use of it sitting at the comfort of their own home. What more we want?
Yeah, that's very true. You say that, Parul, because in our view, when we emerge from all this, society is going to be a very different place. Can we imagine things like not shaking hands, giving a hug, social distancing becoming the norm, all of us walking, wearing masks and gloves? Economists that we speak to look into the crystal ball and say social venues like cinema halls, malls, theme parks, airports, etc., where there is a fair amount of social congregation, will all start to decline in this post-COVID era. So there's going to be a significant shift in social behavior, and new forms of behavior will take root. So how do you see it?
I personally agree with this, because I think that another 2 years, till the time that maybe the vaccine is not discovered, another 2 years we are going to be taking for not having this kind of this new norm, what we have discovered. But basically, to human nature, touch is the very basic instinct. How much ever we keep away from each other, whether this post-COVID era, whether we take this thing so far, for how many years we are going to keep away like this? Imagine, because we are social animals, we do like touch. That is what has been our basic nature. So once another, I think 1-2 years, and when this vaccine will be started, we are definitely going to go back to the normal things about touching each other, not wearing those masks, being on those groups. Especially we Indians are more social. We like to be with people, right?
Right. That's a good point, Parul. I mean, very optimistic as well that yes,
I'm very optimistic. I am very, because I think we all require that touch, right? How can we, I cannot ask my child that, oh, no, please don't touch. I can't ask my dog not to come and lick me. She is going to come. There's no other way.
Yes.
And that is what has sustained us. That is what is human life all about. How much ever we just intellectualize saying that, okay, we will not touch and we'll be social. No, we are going to go back to that. Just let us get out of this first. And if we get out of this.
No, I think we will. And it's very good to hear you say refreshingly that we will go back to our usual social norm.
Yeah, 100%. I can't keep away from my dog. When she comes, I can't tell her, oh, please don't lick me.
That's right.
Right. So that's a great conversation, Parul, as well. I think, Sanjay, great takeaways coming in from here as well. And some bit of positivity that does emerge, saying that, yes, I don't think so. We will not get back to normal. There will be a time when we will be back to our lives, our routines that we were living pre-COVID as well. So I think post-COVID probably will not look very different as per what Parul is saying as well.
And for all we know, we might even forget this as a bad dream and evolve as a much better human race, I feel.
Indeed. You're absolutely right, Parul and Hiral. The mind, is such an ocean, with so many depths and layers to it. We on this series are very excited to discover and explore more during this journey of the Hans Brinker Leadership Series.
Yes, thank you everyone for tuning in. In fact, Sanjay and I will be back tomorrow, same time, to share more extraordinary leaders in these extraordinary times. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.